I'm going to start the recording. Welcome everyone, Lake Superior Living Labs Network mini meetup. I'm going to let Kim take it away and then we'll pass it off to Rachel. And I'm a different Rachel working this morning off my phone. So I've got some assistant co-hosts. Thanks everyone. And if you have questions, go ahead and send them to me in the chat. Otherwise, Kim, I'll be quiet and you can take it off.
Rachel,
take it away.
My computer says this meeting is being recorded. Should I just continue? It doesn't mean I'm going to record it too. Sometimes that happens if we're co-hosting. I know that Aaron and I have done that before and accidentally ended up recorded on my computer instead. Okay.
Oh, interesting. I believe it's just recording to the cloud right now.
Excellent. Perfect. Yes. Good morning, everyone. Are we allowed to do intros, Rachel, before to see, because you said there's people from all of the hubs. So now I'm intrigued to see who and where everyone's from. So I'll start since I apparently have the floor. My name is Kim McGibbon. I work at Roots to Harvest, which is in Thunder Bay, Ontario. And then, you know, Rachel, you're going to speak next. Do you want to take the next lead and we'll mosey down the screen?
Yeah, I'll do more of an introduction with my presentation, but I'm Rachael Pressley. I'm a regional planner in the Western U.P. Planning and Development region. I'm based in Houghton, Michigan.
Okay, thank you. And then maybe I'll just organize who goes next based on my screen. So Erica, that means you.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Erica Vai, and I'm a geosciences research scientist at the Great Lakes Research Center in Houghton. And I have the pleasure of working on a number of projects with Rachel, who's presenting today, and looking forward to seeing all the great things she shares. And from hearing from you, Kim, it's great to hear from all the different hubs. Thanks.
Awesome. Thank you. So then the other Rachel is on my screen next.
Wrong button. Hi, everybody. Rachael Portinga, Lake Superior Living Labs Network Coordinator. As part of my graduate assistantship, I'm a PhD student of health sciences at Lakehead University and originally from south of the border in Minnesota and now living in Thunder Bay.
Awesome. Thank you, Rachel. There is, I don't know who this, I can't see the name. David Thompson is the next one I see.
Hey guys. Sorry, I'm just having some issues with my mic here. David Thompson, manager of the Rural Agri Innovation Network. Which
is where?
We're part of the Algoma Hub in Sault Ste. Marie.
Thank you. And then I have Elle Westcote.
That's me. I'm Lloyd Westcote, and I work with the Lake Superior Stewardship Initiative. I'm on the Keweenaw Peninsula in Michigan and get to work a lot with Erica Vai and also with Rachael Pressley.
Nice. I have someone that has no name, but has a picture of you wearing a blue shirt. I don't know who that one is.
Is that Naren? It might be Naren.
Maybe, yes, it must be, but for some
or
reason.
Or Nicole.
No, yeah. Nicole comes next, but maybe Naren.
Hi, everyone. My name is Naren Cameron. I'm a faculty member at Algoma University and part of the Department of Geography, Geology, and Land Stewardship. And I'm helping with the Algoma Hub and proud to be here today. Thank you.
Thank you. Sorry that you had no name on there and I couldn't figure out who you were. Nicole?
Hi, everyone. My name is Nicole. I'm the SHRC research facilitator in the Office of Research at Lakehead University in Thunder Bay.
And then Lindsay, you're the last on my list that I can see so far, unless I'm missing someone.
Good morning, Ryan. Everyone. Okay, Ryan after me. So my name is Lindsay. I am a researcher at Lakehead University. And yeah, so in Thunder Bay during this morning. Thanks, everyone.
I'll pop on here. Hello, everyone. My name is Ryan Urke. I'm the Sustainability Facilitator at the College of St. Scholastica in Duluth, Minnesota.
Yes, I can see that from your picture in the back. Thanks so much. It's sunset at your house? It's I
It's
didn't know the
just
time change was so different.
That'd be the sunrise. That'd be the sunrise.
There and here. Okay. Good morning, everyone. Thank you for introducing. I always like to know who the people are in the room, and this is a Zoom room, so that's fantastic. So thank you for sharing that with me. So my name is Kim McGibbon, and I work, as I mentioned, at Roots to Harvest. My role here my title is Food and Kitchen Director. And I come from a background of public health, and I have a nutrition degree by trade. And now I work in food and people, and I'm going to tell you a little bit about Roots to Harvest and what we're about as soon as I figure out how to change my slides. Here we go. Wrong button. This is who we are at Roots to Harvest from a mission perspective. The goal with Roots to Harvest, or our mission statement, is that we use food as a tool to connect people to one another and to build belonging and dignity through meaningful programs, initiatives, and advocacy. And we do that in a lot of ways. A lot of times we have the perception here in Thunder Bay, for sure, as being a food organization and that we do food. And we spend a lot of time in our elevator pitch explaining to people that we don't actually do food. We're all about people, and food is just the tool that we use to bring those people together. And hopefully through some of the programs I'm going to talk to you about today, you'll see how we do that. So we have sort of three main streams that we think of when we put our brains around what we do here at Roots to Harvest, but really there's so many things we do. It's hard to narrow them down into that. But the first one that we do, and the first thing that I did when I joined the team, was to work in our gardens. So the pictures that you see here are of our youth and young adult programs in our two large urban farms. So here in Thunder Bay, we have a north side and a south side. If you've ever been to Thunder Bay, you know that we have what was originally Port Arthur and Fort William. So one of our gardens is on the north side, and you'll see this group of teenagers with some beautiful flowers and a puppy in one of their hands. And that is our youth employment program that we have for age 15 to 18-year-olds. And they work in that urban farm for the summer during July and August when they are off of school. And we try to create really meaningful, relevant programs where the youth can really see what they've accomplished at the end of the day, not only with the work they do, but with creating employment skills and training opportunities for them, and hopefully developing relationships within that group and also within the community of people who come to their gardens to visit and come to their markets to buy produce. And that's really where they get a chance to connect intergenerationally. To your right on your screen, you'll see our adult crew. So we have a very large, so we call the kiddie pool. Volunteer pool is the name of the garden on the north side of town, and it's kind of the kiddie pool garden. It's very small compared to what we have on the south side of town, where you see these adults standing in a field, which is about 2 acres of growing land that we have. They work with us from May until October. It's a 20-week program that they are with us, and they are involved right from the planting to the very last of the harvest and the putting the garden to bed. And these youth we hire that are 18 to 30. So our adult crew are what they consider in our governments and our grant applications here, NEET youth. So not in education, employment, or training. That's what the NEET acronym stands for. And we try to provide really hands-on work experience, but we try to provide that in a way that encompasses the whole person. And so if you look at this next slide, it talks about this tool that we use. And the tool came out of sustainability research, and a lot of that was in third world countries at the time. And it looked at the idea of building a whole person, and what the sustainable livelihood model uses sort of 6 different tiers, from basic needs to health, to money, to connections. And, I talked already about the importance of connections for us at Roots to Harvest. It looks at the sense of self, and then it looks at skills and employability. So oftentimes when people get a job, the job is really about skills and employability. Do they already have those skills? And we know that the youth and the adults we work with tend to be on the fringes. There's lots of different language that you use in grant applications and things like that, where the people we work with are marginalized, and they're marginalized for a lot of different reasons, because of mental health, because of addictions, because of racism, because of poverty, a variety of things that keep people on the outside. And those are the people that we try to bring in and that we try to work with. And to do that, we try to provide a supportive employment opportunity. So many of the folks that we work with have never had a job before. This is their first time having a job. And by embracing the whole person and providing services that look at that whole person, we're hopefully able to build them to a place where they'll be able to find employment later or go back to school. A lot of our youth are still young enough that they haven't finished school, whether they are teenagers or adults, and we try to work with them and keep them around so that we can get them to whatever that next stage is for them. We're really lucky in the employment that we have here, that we have what we call a community navigator position. So some might think of that as kind of a social worker position, but it's a person who can work directly and provide supports around those things like basic needs, right? If you don't have the right clothing to wear to come to the garden every day, if you don't have food to eat, if you don't have housing, we need to establish those basic needs with the folks we work with, and we're able to do that. Both our senior staff and our community navigator support that. And we have funding that supports that too. And I'm happy to answer questions about funding and pieces like that if people have those a little bit later on. But I just wanted to talk about this whole person feel and the way that we do our work here at Roots to Harvest. Now, when we're not doing employment in the summer, people often ask me this question: what do you guys do in the winter around there? Because when the gardens close up, what kind of work do we do? And we tend to come indoors and we do education. And our organization started as education with youth and working with high school classrooms predominantly. We do a little bit of work with grades 7 and 8s, and sometimes when asked, I think this young man in the picture is below the 7 and 8 category, and that's because of real awesome relationships we built with some First Nations schools and also with First Nations communities where we're asked to come in and do some of this food work. And you can see this young fellow is cooking over a fire. One of the things that happened for us during the pandemic was that we learned to go outside more and to cook in an outside environment. So we were able to purchase a variety of outdoor cooking materials. Something else that we try to do here at Roots to Harvest is focus on the foods of our local area. So foods from the forests, lakes, and skies. We have a specific program called Forest Meets Farm that we've been doing in high schools, mostly high schools, and like I mentioned, sometimes with younger youth if that comes about for us. And Forest Meets Farm focuses on the foods of our northern community. So we've been having lots of fun doing that, both inside and outside, whether it's snowy, like in the background of this picture, or not. So we take a food literacy approach. Food literacy is a term, I don't know if people are really familiar with that, but this is our approach in the classrooms, is to have hands-on. We use the term experiential. My slide uses the term immersive experiences. We really want people to touch and feel and smell and taste the things that we're working with them around, whether that's in the classroom or out in the forest or in a field or whatever it happens to be. We'd like to draw on the students' personal food memories and experiences, and approaching food sources with curiosity and openness. You know, a lot of times people, especially the younger youth, are using the words like yuck, and I don't want to try that. And we try to just approach it with curiosity. We've been lucky enough over the last few years to have developed relationships. Some of that has happened through a partnership with a local group that's the Indigenous Food Circle, and some relationships we built through that. But we've also made a lot of relationships with some First Nations schools here in town. I don't know what it's like in the US, but in Ontario, our funding for First Nations schools comes from federal, which is different than much of our provincial school systems. And so federally funded Indigenous schools like Matawa and Dennis Franklin Cromarty are high schools that we've worked with. And we've been lucky enough to be able to bring in elders and knowledge keepers. And we've learned a lot along the way with that, which has been really exciting for us. These are just a couple of pictures of some outdoor cooking supplies, and getting kids outside and cooking more has been one of the highlights of the last year and a half for us. We like to grow food even in the winter. And so this is an example of Gavin, who is planting in these little boxes, which we use for our grow towers. And I'm not sure if people have seen grow towers before, but these are some young folks in one of the First Nations communities that we were asked to come in and do some of this work with. Gavin just got back with one of our other staff from Long Lac First Nation yesterday, where he was doing this exact workshop, planting little seedlings in order to create what you see in this picture, which is a grow tower. So the grow towers are great because they can be in the classrooms and used throughout the school season, which is not usually when we're growing food outside, because usually the students are off then. So it allows them to grow and harvest and care for and watch things grow in their classrooms. So those have been a really fun project for us. And these guys are making salad dressing in the picture that you see here for some salad that they're going to harvest later on in that day. One of the other things, and I don't think Charles is on the call today, but I think he's in this field with me that day. He's part of the Lake Superior Living Labs Network. We're in Kiashkizaging Anishinaabe, which is one of our First Nations. We usually just call it KZA, or Gulbe is the English name. And we're planting the garden as fast as you possibly could before this giant rainstorm came and fell, which was perfect timing for that garden. So one of the things that we've been really lucky with is to develop these relationships and work directly with community members and just bring, you know, we have a little bit of knowledge about gardens, they have more knowledge about their land and their community, and we try to work together around some of those projects. So that's been a lot of fun. So I talked about how we sort of think about the programs that we have here at Roots to Harvest in 3 different streams. So I started with employment, I moved to education, and then we lump everything else into this one, which is outreach and advocacy. So one of the things that you see in this particular picture is some gete squash seeds. So Rachael Pressley, that's on the line, her and I work together a lot around seed saving and some of the seed work that happens to help build our own seed security in Northern Ontario. But this particular seed has a really fun story because it was hundreds of years old, and it was a seed that was gifted to us in order that we could grow it out. I wish I had pictures of the whole squash on here actually now, because they're like the size of my leg. They're massive, these gete squash, and they are delicious as well, especially if you give a group of grade 7 and 8s, the oil and the salt, they put a lot of that on there and it makes it especially delicious. So one of the things we do is tell that story in the community groups, mostly grade schools and high schools. And then we help them learn how to save seed. And then we cook the squash with them and talk about seed security and pieces like that. So that's a fun part of this particular piece that you see in front of you here. We also do, and mostly my job is around cooking programs that happen. We have a large commercial kitchen here. I should have put that picture in the slideshow, but I did not. It is beautiful. Right now they're making granola. One of the things we do here is we want to create meaningful work, right? And so creating social purpose enterprise. So whether that's jams or jellies or granola, we sell those things in our community. But one of the really fun programs that you see in front of you here is a culture kitchen. So Erin Stevens, you'll see with the purple glasses on in this picture, she brought together a group of women, mostly Middle Eastern descent, all Arabic speaking, to allow them a space where they could meet each other and speak in their own language, but also practice their English. So we had a translator. On Erin's right, there's another young woman with glasses. Her name is Aya. She did the translation for this program. And they had a chance to learn about English, about the Canadian context, and also they really focused on starting businesses and what it might be like to run a cooking business in town. And Aya with the glasses there, her and her mother were participants in this program, and they did start a restaurant here in town called Royal Aleppo, which is a delicious place to visit if you ever come to Thunder Bay. Other things we do is a lot of food access. So since COVID hit and people weren't able to access food in their schools, or they were nervous, seniors were nervous about coming to emergency food places, we started to develop different programs where we could put meals together for families. So the bags that you see all there are packed for families who would normally access breakfast and snack programs in their school. And we did 400 of those a week at our max, maybe 450, and got those out to families in the community. There's an example picture there of sort of what was in those. The yellow food bags you see below, and Charlotte was a nutrition student volunteering with us in the summer, and we are still doing weekly bags to seniors through the Do Drop In. The seniors were less likely to go access food because of their higher risk for COVID at the beginning. And so we tried to help fill that gap by giving them food that they could use at home to cook and wouldn't have to come for hot meal programs quite as often. We do a lot of other emergency food programs, which you can see here, and we did a lot more during the peak of COVID as well. Something fun that I just got off another meeting about is a community food market. So another program we do around food access is getting fresh fruits and vegetables to community members right where they live. So this community food market is offered in one of Thunder Bay District Housing Association's neighborhoods, and we bring food there outside in the warm months and then inside the building in the colder months, and then people can come directly there. Another really cool piece of that is that it has what's called a Greens prescription program. So people are able to get a Greens prescription from the community health center that we work in partnership with. And then we have funding from Community Food Centers Canada to pay for fruits and vegetables for them every week. So they just need to come and they have the opportunity to pick the food that they want, that they know that they like, that they can try new maybe this week, and that they is culturally appropriate for them and their families. And that's a big part of some of the work we've been doing around dignity and food access, giving people a choice, giving them fresh, giving them good sources of food that they have an opportunity to choose has been a big part of some of the work that we've been doing. We have a great new resource on that if people are interested, checking it out on our website on dignified food access. And then things just about us before I wrap up and let you ask questions this is a little bit about who we are. So I left my role as a dietitian in public health in 2016. At that time, we had 2.5 staff and a tiny office with one large desk that we sat around, and there were 2.5 of us staff-wise. We are up now to about 14 full-time staff here. In the summer months, we have 16 to 25 because we hire those seasonal staff programs. We add about 8 to 10 on each of those sites. We now have a leadership team, and our structure is a little bit different. There are 4 of us on our leadership team. We have a board of directors, as you do when you're a not-for-profit charitable organization. One of our main streams of income is through these beautiful 300 community members, and not all of them live in our community actually, that donate once a month. So we know we have a certain amount of money that we can bill on. Our budget has gone up multiple times and is now over $1 million. This is from last year and will be different again next year. We have recently purchased this building. This is the kitchen actually in this picture. This is one of our annual general meetings that we were having, and that's our commercial kitchen that everyone is sitting around. So we have dozens and dozens of community partners, and we're grateful to work with school boards and First Nations agencies and social services and healthcare. And we are just, I don't know, I live in gratitude that we have so many wonderful people that are open to working with us and sharing their vision and allowing us to share our spaces and our vision with them as well. Something we are doing is transitioning into a community food center. So there we will be the 15th. There are 14 other community food centers in Canada, and we are transitioning to do more of that work. And I'm excited and a little bit scared of what that looks like. For us, it means we purchased this building and we're going to turn the front end into a community food market as well as a sit-down space for people who struggle to find enough food to be able to come and sit and eat together with us. So that's a part of what our community food center will be. And then we'll just keep doing all of the other work that we've been doing all along. So that's a part of this opportunity to do more. As we become the 15th community food center, we'll continue to work on building health and belonging and social justice through food. And some of that is, you know, by doing the same things we've always been doing, but also adding on pieces. Like in this picture, this is my buddy Alec. He was one of our punks. We use the term punks growing food as one of our taglines. So we use punks in the most affectionate, loving way. And this is him volunteering in the summer to come and help prepare hot meals that we then freeze and give to seniors so that they can retherm them at home. But we look forward to the day where that community food center is open and we can sit down and have a bowl of soup with our neighbors and our community members. And yeah, and that's what we're looking forward to and we're excited about. That's me. I don't even know how much time I was supposed to have, but I feel like I should stop. And if you have questions, we can ask questions. So I will.
That was perfect.
Back over to Rachel. Is that good?
Yeah, this is great. Thanks, Kim, that you're like at 17 minutes, which is awesome.
Great.
Yeah, so no worries. If you've got questions, folks, feel free to, we have time for a Q&A at the end, but feel free to put them in the chat for now so we don't lose them. or write them on a piece of paper. And I will hand it over at this moment to Rachael Pressley for her to tell us about food and community in that really, really broad description work in Houghton. Rachael, go ahead and share a screen if you want to, or however you want to take over. Go ahead.
All right, give me a second.
Oh yeah, you're good.
Oh my gosh, what an amazing presentation, Kim. That was incredible. I really appreciated hearing about your work, and the Community Food Center vision sounds amazing. So I have a couple questions, but I'll wait till the end. So I was asked, this is my first time at the Living Lab Network. Hello, all of you. So great to meet you all, and also have all the hubs represented here. That's great. I was invited here because of Erica Vi, and we, like she said, work closely together on several projects. Also work with Lloyd. Hi, Lloyd, glad you're here. And so when I was invited to talk, Erica and Rachael kind of said, whatever you want to talk about. And I kind of was thinking about talking about my role as a planner in the Western UP, but that can get really dry. So I think talking about the Western UP Food Systems Collaborative and community food systems relationships that are here in the Western UP is a little bit more interesting. And the Western Upper Peninsula is the 6 western counties of the Upper Peninsula of Michigan, and also 2 tribal nations, Keweenaw Bay Indian Community, and Lockview is there, Band of Lake Superior, Chippewa. Okay, it's harder for me to read the chat here. All right, there we go. And we are very rural. There's a little over 80,000 people across the entire Western UP. I have a little over 30,000 in the Houghton County area. But yeah, we are a very rural place, as probably most of you know. So because it's my first time here, I just wanted to share a little bit about myself. So like I said, I'm a planner for the Western UP Planning and Development Region. We are a regional planning agency, a government-run organization. Our board is made up of county commissioners. We have over 70 local units of government as memberships, so we directly serve our communities. I'm also a gardener. You can see like my picture of my beans on the right. I'm a cook, a mother, an avid rock collector. My degree is in geology, a seed saver, and a friend. I'm from Alaska, Dena'ina homelands, and now living in Michigan and Anishinaabe homelands. I've also lived in Texas and North Carolina and Wisconsin. I worked on a coffee farm in Hawaii in my 20s, and I also worked as a nanny, like in Germany. Pretty fun. My favorite projects that I do with the collaborative are organizing for seed libraries. And then we have a mutual aid project that I'll talk a little bit more about called Growing from the Heart. And one of my life goals is to open a soup shop, a soup and tea shop in Houghton with delivery, and closed in the summer. So seems really fun. And this is my little dog, Eddie, the little Jack Russell Terrier that I rescued when we were living in Wisconsin. He's very cute and very fun. Okay, so why a food systems collaborative? I feel like a lot of the group here understands the importance of relationships, and the collaborative is really a network and a group to work from, just like this one. Who's at the table with the collaborative? Thanks for all the chats, I love it. How do we do the work together? And then what are we even doing? And then some of our outcomes that we're seeing for us and our shared communities. These are pictures of raspberries that I put together before I did some jamming this past season. So the Western U.P. Food Systems Collaborative has been meeting for the last 3 years, and we have only just recently developed our guidance documents together, how we'll work together, our shared vision and mission, our goals together. And at the top of this, oh, and also like a code of conduct, and if we move into conflict, how we work together with that. But at the top of our document is an acknowledgement and ceremony for where we live, but also this orientation into our organizing, which I love. It's written by a community organizer, Grace Lee Box, who did a lot of organizing in Detroit. And I'm going to read it. We never know how our small activities will affect others through the invisible fabric of our connectedness. In this exquisitely connected world, it's never a question of critical mass. It's always about critical connection. So, why Food Systems Collaborative? Like I said, 3.5 years ago, I started meeting a lot of people because I became a planner here in the Western U.P. and really started learning about all these different amazing activities in our local food system. But a lot of us had kind of been siloed and working like within our own organizations. And so we, as I started meeting different people, we kind of came together and decided that we were stronger together, and developed the Western U.P. Food Systems Collaborative. At the time we called it Council, but we decided to change the name. We received a little bit of seed funding to support this, and then started meeting. We spent the first year actually traveling around the Western U.P. and meeting with our communities, and kind of visioning together for what we want in our food system. So very broad. And we're all volunteers. There really isn't funding to support the Western U.P. Food Systems Collaborative, but we leverage a lot of the funding we receive through grant writing to support the collaborative and their work. So a lot of the text that I have in this presentation is directly from our guidance document, which we put together. So we said that we'll work together because we're stronger in our collective efforts than we are alone. Through our collaborations, we update one another. We share community and personal successes. Joy is really a huge part of the work we do together. And then we request assistance of each other. We make connections and learn from and build relationships with each other as we organize our shared efforts for food sovereignty and justice in our communities. And here's a beautiful picture of one of the leaders in the collaborative. Her name is Kathleen Smith, and she is tending her garden that she keeps with her twins. They love growing their pumpkins, and it's a really beautiful space out in Lawrence, or Keweenaw Bay Indian Community Garden. So who's at the table? Really the year of visioning that we did with community members was a very strong relationship building process where we sometimes just cold called, sometimes just showed up and held meals with people and had conversations and developed this vision. But we realized through this process that we're really a coalition of food growers and procurers. We also have public health professionals and civic partners, scientists and researchers, educators, land and water stewards, and then we're all community members. We are guided by a planning team that meets monthly. And anybody can be invited to those monthly meetings. As we know, certain people only certain people have capacity to meet monthly. But we're also a part of a larger regional network called the Upper Peninsula Food Exchange, which is UP-wide. And then we have a statewide network, the Michigan Local Food Council Network. And MLFCN provides us with some seed funding for kind of paying for our costs as we go forward through the years. Also, I wanted to put this thing in here because we really are not constrained by the borders of our county, of our state, of generations, race, class, all these different pieces. We are really just constrained by the willingness of those committed to serve the food system and work with us. So it's really an exciting group to be working with as a planner. I don't see any type of collaborative network like this in the Western UP for other portions of planning, such as like transportation or housing, or that sort of thing. So it's a really great way to do the projects that we do. But really it starts with relationships. I really like how you talked about this, Kim, in your presentation. It's not about us thinking in our own organization, like how can I do a project and invite the right people to do it. We spent years developing the relationships and really becoming friends and supporters and volunteers together. And then through our conversations, we develop projects together based on the needs that we hear and the invitations that we receive. So we also hold an annual photo contest. So a lot of the photos in here too are from the photo contest. This one is a little, you can't really see it as well, but it's a bunch of people ice fishing, which is really fun practice here. Probably there too. Okay, so what are we even doing? I struggled to kind of like wrangle all the different projects that we're doing into these kind of 4 groups. I'm not sure how well they fit in here, but there is a lot of work that's going on, and they kind of fall into these lines. So with food sovereignty, is huge here. It's so important. So many people are active in their food system and doing what they want to do, growing what they want to grow, and controlling those processes. The food here is abundant and wonderful and delicious. And so a lot of what we do is also just writing grants and funding to support what's already going on. Just like, you know, education and workshops might need a little bit extra money in order to invite people and pay for their stay and pay for the supplies, or a gathering, like harvest gatherings that are already going on. How can we pay for like trash to be dealt with and that sort of thing? So a lot of this we support through our relationships. We know what's going on in the Western UP, and then we bring more to it. We also do a lot of mutual aid. Like I said, the Seed Library projects are one of my favorite projects. We are getting donations and also meeting local seed savers and forming groups to basically repackage the seeds for free distribution at our public libraries. Lloyd is actually leading a seed library in Calumet, about 10 to 15 miles north of the one in Houghton, and we're already like sharing seeds back and forth. So it's very exciting. We're hoping to develop a UP-wide seed library network next, so that as we receive seeds in the queue and all that might have like a longer growing season, that we're going down to the Garden Peninsula and trading with them. We also are working on a mutual aid project called Growing from the Heart. This really came out of the first kind of months of the pandemic, when we were all very alone in our homes and trying to connect to each other. What we saw was just an explosion of interest in gardening, which was really exciting for us. And so we wanted to bring people together outside to garden together. Growing from the Heart, some different aspects of it. One are encouraging people to share all of their garden extra produce with their neighbor, with their elder, and meet people and don't require people to show that they have need for food, but just to give it to them freely. We know that these connections are already happening here. We live in a gifting community where food is always shared and gifted. And so we just wanted to support more of that. We also made connections with food pantries where we saw an increase of need in emergency food during the pandemic. And so we wanted to, as people had, so much zucchini, this is the food pantry that you could drop off the zucchini. And that was really exciting. And then people who owned land were making garden spaces available for, there was a youth garden collective that formed during the process. And so they were traveling around to 5 different sites in Houghton County to grow food. Another thing that we do is create free giveaway gardens in people's front yards, like in Houghton and Hancock, so that people who don't have cars are still able to access gardens. It's our goal to create these neighborhood networks of giveaway gardens so that if you need food or if you're walking by a garden and just want to sink your hands in the dirt, which I feel that sometimes, that's kind of the space for growing from the heart. We also developed a collective CSA during the pandemic where the Health Foundation collectivized 5 farms and then started paying them for local food to form these family food boxes. There are many different food box programs that have come out of the pandemic, which is very exciting. And so we wanted to see that too, but we also wanted to see local food in those boxes and to pay the farmers for their work. And so that collective CSA is now just finished up their 2nd year and will go into another 3rd year next year. So we're very excited about the successes of that. Other stuff that we're doing is infrastructure development. We are really excited about farm to school and have been doing focus groups and basically planning the logistics of how to get local food into our schools. The state of Michigan has a number of incentives right now for paying for local food, like extra funding to the food service directors to pay for that cost. And so we really want to, thanks Rachel, we really want to support that planning process. We also are developing therapeutic horticulture gardens at sites of high trauma, such as the domestic violence shelter and the alternative high school. We've also seen the local mental health take that model and are now planning therapeutic horticulture gardens in the village of Ontonagon. Very exciting. Okay, I'm being told I need to rush a little bit, but another part of this process is really an assessment, and we are planning a longitudinal study to basically survey the community for 2 years over the next couple decades to see how food and foodways are shifting based on the all of the amazing things that are going on. What's really exciting about the survey is it's not just addressing food insecurity and proximity to grocery stores, but also talking about food ways such as hunting and gathering and gardening and gifting food. These pieces we think are really left out of food security surveys, and we really want to capture the abundance that's here and celebrate it. So we can see that the outcomes from what we do, we see more connection, more collaboration and partnerships through the process, an increase of education for ourselves and our understanding of the community. And then also development such as this infrastructure development of gardens and seed libraries and farmers market organizing and food boxes, different pieces like that. And that all lends to more growth in our community personally, socially, and really just a growth of our excitement about food here. Okay, so I am done with my presentation. This is another really cute picture of chickens from our photo contest. You can learn more about the Food Systems Collaborative at our website, wpfoodsystems.com. You can learn more about Whoopitor if you want to, where I work, the regional planning agency, at whoopitor.org. And then that's my email if you want to collaborate and work on a project together, which I was kind of hoping would come out of this presentation. Okay, that's all from me. Thank you.
That was great, Rachel. Thanks so much. Sorry, I was giving you a 5-minute warning and you only used 2 more minutes, so you're golden. Totally fine. That was great. Yeah, and at this point, thanks to both Kim and Rachel. Thanks, Lindsay. Yeah, have a good day, folks, if you have to go. But we do have about 10 minutes here for questions, for Q&A. So I know I've got a couple, but I'd like to open it up to other folks first. So if people want to raise their hand or just unmute, or put them in the chat, we can use any of those formats. Kim and Rachel, you're also allowed to ask each other questions.
Kim, I was really wondering more about the steps that were taken from like going from like this 2.5 staff to like 14 paid positions, and how you kind of set up that like capacity funding for that year to year. I thought that was really fascinating and interesting.
So that is work that our executive director, Erin Beagle, participated in, mostly in grant writing and relationship building. So Rachel, you talked about that relationship building, right? And that's what's really important. And it takes years, right, to figure out who the partners are that are going to work together. And then, you know, we're all about exponential growth here for some reason. That seems to be our MO. So we just kept building relationships and funding, and we kept looking at, so I talked about the 300 Cultivate members is what we call the folks who are monthly donors. So different strategies for fundraising, right? So that strategy allows us to have money that is not attached to a particular grant and a particular outcome. So you know when you write grant applications that you have to do this, this, and this, and you're only allowed to spend that money on these things. And oftentimes that doesn't include staff, or it doesn't include infrastructure, and you need to figure out those things. So trying to find out funding sources that didn't have those kind of parameters attached was a big part of that. We of course have, you know, funders that are government, we have federal government, we have provincial government funding, we have foundations and organizations. We also, I talked about social purpose enterprise. So we do make money from some of the products that we make and sell. We have those 2 large urban farms, so we do sell that food as well. So there's all these different, you know, so it's only like 5 to 10% of our income comes from those pieces. But every year as we do more of it, it adds a little bit more to that pocket. And now we're into corporate fundraising, which is a brand new thing for us this year as we work to purchase the building. We needed to raise hundreds of thousands of dollars as opposed to just, you know, 20,000 to run this project, or 50,000 so we can hire a person and run a project, right? So now we're into the big money. So that's new for us.
Thanks so much, Kim. I really appreciate that.
Yeah, it's super fun.
Rachel, kind of as a follow-up to you, I was wondering, you know, you had said that the group, the planning group meets once a month. Is anyone in that group being paid through any of the grant, or is everyone doing this off the side of their desks, or is any one person sort of, or a couple people in charge of keeping the group running? How is that logistically sort of happening for yours?
Yeah, so we just secured our first kind of allocation to support the group through the Farm to School grant. This actually developed a new position for someone in our region to basically specialize and become a farm to school expert. There is about 2 hours of her time every week to support the Food Systems Collaborative. But really, what's amazing about this is that there's no one person leading the group. The folks that are members right now have like taken the initiative to, we all switch off with facilitation. We all share like agenda making and project development. So it's, yeah, it really is like a group of volunteers because we see how useful this collaborative is in all of our own individual work.
I just had a question for Kim. What have you seen to be some of the positive impacts on the agri-food sector? Because I'm thinking from the urban farm, you may have spun out a few farm businesses over the course of Roots to Harvest. And has there been any negative consequences? I mean, I can see that maybe a social enterprise may be competing with the agri-food sector. Could you comment on that?
Sure. I think in our community, people are pretty supportive of more agriculture, more growing, and more selling of local food just helps others. So we're also, but we also are very careful about the way we price things at our markets so that they are not underpricing. So, you know, when we go to the country market, for instance, which is where most of our local food is sold, if it's not directly through a CSA, we try to make our prices comparable at our on-site markets. Now, I talked about our community food market, which is different. We price things differently in those neighborhoods to make food more accessible, but we try to not underprice so that we're not competing. As far as spin-off businesses, we have staff from here who now run their own CSA and have their own farm. And they come here on Thursdays to give out their produce because they have a winter, you know, their CSA is wrapping into the winter where our food is all gone. That's just one example, only because, you know, they're the two that I know and love the most. And so they have that relationship with them. And we do have other staff who will roll out to other kinds of food businesses. We do, you know, our farmer a few years ago, he also runs a farm. He didn't stay in Northern Ontario, but there are folks who learn about farming and do move on to do some of that work. So we're excited when they do that. David, I feel like there's another part of your question that I haven't answered.
No, I think you did. That was great. Thanks.
Okay. There was something else I meant to say as you were asking the question, and I can't remember what it is. So, okay.
Yeah, something came to mind is Roots to Harvest, like sort of piloted a CSA, but then I think decided not to do it because it, well, there were lots of other CSAs around too.
Well, that isn't why, actually. It's because of COVID and we changed our staffing. So one of the things about running a youth organization is there's lots of turnover, right? The thing about training people and giving them skills is they go off and do other things and they leave you. So we had a grower here for 2 years. We always have a community grower that is responsible for our seed saving, our planting schedules, and the planting and harvesting of the food in those years. And so we had a very successful CSA last summer, which was built from the summer before. But we changed farmers this year and it was a pandemic. And we thought we'd just give that person a break. And we just sell our produce other ways this past year. So yeah.
Thanks, Kim.
We'll go back to it. Yeah.
Okay. Ryan, go ahead.
So I appreciated seeing kind of how to navigate winter and educating about food and stuff, and seeing the tower, you know, how to do that. And so I'm working on building a food justice course, and it's all for this spring coming up. And things I'm thinking about, like what sort of food is resources and stuff. And so one of the things we're going to be doing is sugaring, and kind of curious about what sort of sugaring activities and how maybe that's been integrated in community building or education in either of your programs.
I don't understand. Sugaring? Is that what
maple sugaring?
Okay.
Maple sugar. Tapping trees.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's an American way of saying that, maybe?
Yeah. How do you say it?
Okay. I don't know. So we do have local maple syrup here in our community. And we work with the syrup stand. So there's one on our First Nation. So at the Fort William First Nation, which is our community partner. So we have, you know, our participants learning more about that. Like, we're not doing it ourselves as an organization, but our youth program, I didn't talk about this, the youth program that we hire in the summer, the 15 to 18-year-olds, we keep them around all year just because we found the program was so intense and the connections were so deep and the relationships that were developed were strong, but we noticed that the kids would spiral a little bit when they left us because they hadn't been used to that kind of community support and relationship. And we wanted to be able to provide that to them through their school year. And school is hard for them, right? And going home to their families is hard for them sometimes. So we keep them on staff a day a week throughout the whole year. And a lot of times they've had the opportunity to go and cut wood and boil syrup and be out there at our sugaring farms. That, yeah. But that is my only experience is that. And also purchasing it. So our local guy, I just bought 70 jars of it so I can put it in my food access bags because I have funding from Local Food Infrastructure Fund, which is one of our fundraisers that we do here in community so that we can, this is the thing, David, that I wanted to tell you, that we had a specific fundraising campaign to buy local food. So even, so that we can continue to buy food from our local producers and to help keep them in business during the pandemic, we were able to buy that food to put into our emergency food hampers. So, this high price point piece where, you can buy local maple syrup, and I'm giving that to seniors in their food hampers tomorrow as part of their breakfast themed package or whatever that we're doing. So that's something that we try to do to support our local partners, and they support us in so many ways. We use their product in our granola. I don't know, I also have, what else did I have? Cheese. I have local cheese coming in for the seniors this week too. Because who doesn't want cheese and apples with your breakfast?
Yeah. Wow.
Right? Yeah. So those are some of the things that we do.
Cool. Thank you.
Naren asked a question about birch syrup too. I just noticed in the chat. Were you going to say that, Rachel?
Yeah. I don't know that we have. Do we have birch syrup?
We do have birch syrup here, and we used to have a local. So Beth and Dave used to have a local space where they were collecting a birch stand, is what we would call it, right? Where they were tapping the trees in the birch stand, and once they let that go a little bit after buying a farm and having 2 children and working full-time jobs, they weren't able to keep this business alive. But it was pretty awesome using the birch syrup, especially in the cooking programs. It was wonderful. So people do tap it. It takes a lot more work. It boils. You have to boil it down quite a bit farther than maple syrup. But we do have it up here for sure. It's just not a business anymore where we can easily buy it.
Yeah, makes it a little harder. Well, thanks everybody. I'm noticing the time, and I'm guessing folks have the next meeting in the next minute or so, and we like to try to end early-ish. So I guess thank you to Kim. Thank you to Rachel. I learned a lot from both of you about this. If you two have a second to throw your emails in the chat, then if people wanted to reach out to you afterwards, that'd be awesome since the PowerPoint slides are gone. And if you don't have time to catch it, email me and I can always connect people afterwards. But otherwise, have a great day and thanks for being here, everyone.
Thanks. I have so many questions for you, Rachel. I'll send an email.
Thank you.
I really enjoyed that. Thanks so much.
Kim.